Hey everyone, welcome back to my Anthropology Journal podcast. This week connected two topics that seem unrelated at first, environmental racism and DNA. But together they make a pretty clear point. Race isn't biological, it's political, and it shapes who gets harmed and who gets protected. Matthew Mills's talk showed how environmental racism has deep roots in North America. During slavery, black people weren't just exploited. The land was too. Soil was exhausted, forests overworked, and instead of repairing anything, plantation owners just expanded onto new land and new bodies. Later, redlining and zoning kept black families out of certain neighborhoods, and when black communities did settle somewhere, industries were placed right beside them. Toxic air, polluted water, fewer services, and then society pretends it's just coincidence that these areas have worse health outcomes. And then we looked at Canada. Ingrid Waldron talked about Bill C-226 and how environmental racism affects Indigenous and Black communities here. The examples say everything. Pictou Landing, First Nation living beside a toxic lagoon for decades. Amjunaang, surrounded by petrochemical plants. Africville destroyed in Halifax, and Wet'suwet'en resisting pipelines pushed through their land. Environmental harm isn't random. It follows a racial pattern. The bill tries to bring accountability by requiring race-based data, health tracking, and compensation, but even Waldron admits it's only a first step. What stood out is how similar this is to everything else we've studied: policing, prisons, mental health, education. Different issues, same structure. Certain communities deal with the worst risks and the fewest resources, while institutions avoid naming racism directly. Canada loves to say, we're better than the US, but the patterns tell a different story. Then the week shifted to DNA and ancient humans. At first, it felt like a totally different topic, but it ended up challenging the same myth. We learned how new technology lets anthropologists recover ancient DNA and proteins, showing that multiple human species existed and often disappeared because of climate shifts. Even Homo sapiens wasn't guaranteed to win. Our survival involved chance as much as anything else. When we moved to modern DNA testing, the point became even clearer. DNA does not prove racial categories. Humans share 99.9% of their DNA. The remaining fraction overlaps across continents because people have always mixed with each other. Those ancestry circles they showed, Africa, Europe, Asia, the Americas, all overlap. There's no clean biological boundary that matches the racial boxes societies use. That's why ancestry tests can't actually define race. They can estimate regional ancestry, but those percentages don't reflect neat divisions. The stories of white supremacists getting upset about impure results prove how socially constructed race really is. DNA refuses to cooperate with racist fantasies. At the same time, DNA tests have changed how some people think about family, identity, and kinship. People discover unknown relatives, unexpected ancestry, or histories their families never talked about. But even those discoveries raise questions about belonging, responsibility, and what it means to claim an identity without understanding the community that carries it. Putting both halves of the week together, the message is pretty straightforward. Biologically, humans are deeply interconnected, but socially, we've built systems that act as if we're separate species. Environmental racism shows how those invented categories turn into real harm. Polluted air, unsafe water, destroyed land, and higher illness rates in the same communities that already face policing, poverty, and underfunded services. Anthropology helps us see the disconnect. DNA tells us race isn't a natural division. The environment shows us that racism shapes whose bodies and lands are considered expendable. If Canada wants to live up to its own self-image, it has to start by admitting the harm isn't historical. It's happening right now. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next episode.